Hi everyone, welcome back. Another drawing demonstration for you today. Today I'm going to be doing this. It's a hurricane. It's part of an art exchange that I'm going to be doing with Lena Line, my YouTube friend, who I've done a collaboration with before. I will leave a link to her channel in the description below. She came up with a brilliant idea of commissioning each other to do a drawing and then swapping at the end. So I chose a horse for Lenica to draw for me because I love horses, I love animals. I just can't draw them, I'm not very good at them at all, but Lenica's brilliant at them. And she actually wanted me to draw this hurricane for her, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. But before I get started, I've actually got the drawings here that Lenica done for me. She sent me all the studies and the sketches. So I've actually got I've got 5 drawings here, 4 horse drawings here, which I'll show you now because I'm really absolutely delighted with them. I can't believe I've got 4 of them as well. That one's in pastel, absolutely beautiful. That's a graphite study. That actually looks like one of the horses near me, which I see on a regular basis. I go up there walking and I always stop and feed him and stroke him. Really friendly horse. He's even got a smile just like that. Really pleased with that. That's brilliant. That. I think there's 2 there, isn't there? No, just what I see. And look at that one in charcoal. Wow. The detail on the face for charcoal, that's incredible. I love all this as well. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely beautiful, that one. And that's another graphite drawing. Absolutely fantastic. Again, look at the detail on the face and on the mane. Wow. Thank you so much, Lenica. That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely made my day when I received those. Thank you very much. There's also this one as well. I swapped this for one of my watercolours. I just mentioned to Lenica that I really like this one, so we've done a swap. Beautiful, isn't it? Right, okay, so I'll leave a link to Lenica's channel where you can actually go and see her drawing those horses in the latest video. But before I get started on mine, I'll just quickly show you the materials I'll be using. Derwent drawing paper, an HB pencil, a 4B pencil and a 2H pencil. And I'll also be using another HB pencil. It's a mechanical pencil with a 0.5mm lead in there, so I shall be using that to get some fine detail. Tombow eraser and a Kohinoor pencil eraser, the paper blender, and then a soft brush for blending in and dusting off. And that's it. Right, let's get started. Okay, so I'll start by using a cotton ball and I'll rub that into some 9B graphite and I'll apply it to the paper so it's nice and even, nice and light all over. And when that's done, I'll use the blending stump rubbed into the 9B graphite. I'm going to use it like a pencil. I'm going to draw out the basic outline of the hurricane with it. And the reason I'm doing that and not actually using a pencil is because I don't want any hard pencil lines on this type of subject. I want to keep the lines nice and soft. If I use hard pencil lines on this, they'll be difficult to erase later on in the drawing. But using this method, I'll get nice soft lines which will just sort of blend into the picture as I slowly build it up. And as you can see, the autofocus on my camera is playing up a little bit at the start of the video. I did have to cut a little bit of the shading part out because the camera just wouldn't focus. So that basically that darker area that's underneath the hurricane there, I just used the graphite on the paper blender just to apply some sort of cloud textures and tone just under the hurricane there. Now I'm using the 2H pencil. And as you can see, I'm going very slowly, taking my time, sort of little circular motions in and out of some of the lighter areas, which I'll lay down with the blending stump. And that's going to start the process off of creating sort of cloud shapes. I'm trying to get some movement as well in this picture, so I'm being conscious to leave some of the lighter areas, if you like, sort of directional, which should give the hurricane a sense of movement. And also I'm using the blending stump to blend in the 2H pencil as well. I don't want any hard edges at all in this drawing, well, particularly in the top half where the hurricane is. So even though we're going to get some sort of nice contrasts between lights and darks, the transitions between them, I want to actually keep them nice and soft and blended in to give that nice soft sort of cloud effect. I could have actually started this drawing with graphite powder and used the eraser to take out the shape of the hurricane and start it from there. That would have been a good way of actually doing it. I would have got some nice cloudy effects with the graphite powder. But for this drawing I decided to play safe and start it in the way I did, and then slowly build up layer by layer gradually with a 2H pencil, just to sort of get the shapes and the tones, and then slowly build up to an HB pencil, a 4B pencil, and just keep strengthening the drawing and the shapes and the tones as I go along. You'll notice as well that I'm using the blender quite a lot through this drawing. I actually use it to get some of the nice subtle shade in there on the cloud. I just keep rubbing the tip in some 9B graphite that I've got scribbled out on a scrap piece of paper at the side of me. And it makes a great drawing tool in its own right, particularly when you want to achieve some nice sort of soft cloudy effects. One important thing to remember when you're drawing clouds or hurricanes or anything sort of cloudy or stormy or anything like that, you must keep everything soft. I know that may sound fairly obvious, but even where your lightest lights meet the darkest darks, that transition in between must be blended to the point where you don't sort of merge everything into one sort of mid-tone, where you actually retain the lights and the darks, but just the transition between them is really soft. So that's why I use the blender quite a lot in this drawing. I was just using the kneadable eraser there just to pull out a few highlights in the hurricane, and now I'm using the HB pencil. As you can see, I'm going at it really slowly again, just working in and out of the dark areas, the light and dark areas should I say, and then I go in with the blending stump, and like I just mentioned, I sort of blend those transitions in so there's no hard edges at all. So that really is probably the most important thing about this drawing, to remember just to keep blending and softening back any hard edges, and the picture just won't work. I'm even going in there now with a soft brush just to gently soften everything over, just to make sure that there's no sort of hard edges anywhere. Now I'm using a 4B pencil. Again, I'm slowly building up the tone, doing exactly the same thing that I did with the 2H pencil and the HB pencil. Just working in and out of those dark and light areas and keep softening back. The difference between the blending stump and the brush is the blending stump obviously is going to get into those tighter areas and those little transitions and do the job there. But you do run a risk with the blending stump of actually merging everything in together and just sort of ending up with one mushy sort of mid-tone, which doesn't look very good. So you must sort of have a light touch with this. But the brush, that won't sort of smudge everything together. That will just gently just soften everything back, give a nice sort of misty soft effect to the whole area. Now I'm using the Tombow eraser to pull out a few highlights, and once I've done that I go in yet again with the blending stump and soften those transitions off a little bit. I'm trying to keep the highlights there sort of directional, to emphasise a little bit more movement in the hurricane. Now I'm using the pencil eraser just to get some nice sort of soft edges on the tops of the clouds there. This is actually a Koh-i-Noor pencil eraser. Linica actually recommended this to me. She said it was one of the nicest pencil erasers that she used, and I have to agree. I think it's fantastic. It does a wonderful job. It's very effective. Okay, so after I've finished putting a few highlights on top of the cloud edges there, I go back in with a 2H pencil on the right hand side of the hurricane and just start working up some of the detail, some of the darker areas. Again, I'm going at it really gently, just working small areas at a time and just blending back and then repeating that process over and over again until I'm happy with the results. Right, okay. At this stage of the drawing, I think I've got just about enough information down now on the hurricane, so that I can just walk away from it and start on the foreground, so I can start to balance the two together, and then I can go back in later and start doing more detail on the hurricane. I decided to not copy the photo exactly, to use some artistic license and change the foreground. I thought a path in the foreground would add some nice balance to the picture if I kept the shape sort of complementary to what was above it, the hurricane. So I decided to sort of start it coming in from the right hand corner at the bottom, going off towards the left hand corner, then sort of sweeping in towards the hurricane and kind of sweeping off at the last minute. And I thought that gave a really nice composition and balance to the picture. It actually forms sort of a Z shape, if you like, across the picture, which is quite a nice, attractive composition, I think. Now those fence posts that I just put in there, take no notice of those. They actually get erased out towards the end of the drawing. I didn't like them at all. But anyway, I'm using the 2H pencil again, and I'm just putting in a few distant trees just on the horizon there. Just very gently, very softly, and obviously blending them back again when I've finished. Before I actually started the drawing, I looked at several photos of hurricanes, because I haven't actually seen one in real life. We don't get many of them over here in the UK. I know it's mainly in America that you get a lot of these things, and I did notice that they mainly occur in sort of wide, flat, wide open expanses of land. So I decided to sort of go with that and keep the foreground very uncluttered, because I had all sorts of ideas of putting little farm buildings in there, right up near the hurricane and things like that, to try and add some more focal point and some more interest to the picture. But I thought I'm going to keep this as an atmospheric drawing, and just have the hurricane itself as the main focal point and leave the foreground fairly bare. So I thought if I put that path in there and make a really nice job of the grass either side, that should make for a really nice picture. So that's why I decided to eventually take those fence posts out. They didn't really make sense, in all honesty, just sort of 3 posts just sticking up there, so I just took them out at the last minute. But now I'm using the 2H pencil again, and I'm just using little sort of shading marks, little hatching marks, if you like, little ticks, just to suggest the grass, way off in the distance there. And then I'll soften that right back in with the brush and the blender, so it's nice and soft, so you hardly see any detail at all in the distance. And now, as I'm working a bit further forward into the picture, I'm switching over to the HB pencil, just to get a little bit more contrast, little, a few more darker tones in there in the grass areas. But it's basically the same sort of pencil strokes that I'm using, just little sort of ticks and grass strokes and things like that, and softened and blended back. And I'm wasting my time there drawing in between the fence posts, but I wasn't to know at that point. If you do want to know how to draw grass, I've got another video up. I think it's several videos down on the list, on my playlist. So there's no real need for me to explain too much how I draw the grass here. Just using the Tombow Mono eraser there, just to pull out the highlights in the grass. Sort of individual strands of grass and just little highlights. Fading off into the distance a little bit. It does take some time actually to build up the detail on grass, so do take your time with this if you're having a go at it. You can kind of see now I've got the tones of the grass sort of established. The path is standing out a little bit more. You can kind of see that Z shape that I was talking about, and the balance and the nice composition that the path actually gives to the picture. Just using the 2H pencil again there, just to add in a few little darker tones, just off into the distance. And now I've switched over to the mechanical pencil. It's an HB lead, but it's a 0.5mm lead. It's very fine, and it's nice for creating, little bits of detail in the grass. And it's at this point that I hadn't really decided to, erase these fence posts, so I thought, I'd shade them in as part of the picture. But I think you'll agree, they don't really do a lot for the composition or the picture in general. They're more of an obstacle than anything else, so yeah, I took them out. I'm just using the Tombow eraser again now, just to put a few little highlights on the path, just to suggest a few stones and a few lighter areas, things like that. The picture's almost finished now. I'm just going back in with the 2H pencil, just adding a few final touches, just strengthening some of the areas in the distance there. You can spend hours doing this. In fact, I did spend hours doing that. It took me quite a while actually to get the grass to look right. So, but it's like I say, it's one of those things you're always best to take your time. And again, using the brush there to keep everything nice and soft in the distance. I thought maybe a few more trees along that tree line just there might just help things a little bit, so I just decided just to put a few more in just with the 2H pencil. Just a case now, in the final stages of just looking at your picture and thinking, is anything more I can possibly do just to enhance this, improve it? Does everything look soft enough? And there we go, there's a finished picture. I think you'll agree it looks better without the fence posts. But anyway, I hope you like that. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.